Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be starting the first part of the three-part tutorial on how to make items out of thermoplastic. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a flat image out of thermoplastic that you can use for necklaces, earrings, pieces to hang on your wall. The possibilities are really endless with this. A little bit about thermoplastic before I begin is that it is a medium that starts off as a solid, and as you heat it, it becomes softer and malleable, and once it dries, it becomes a lightweight piece that you can make into pretty much anything. So I'm just going to grab a piece now. So as you can see here, this is a necklace I've made for myself. I've just added these little loops that I'll be putting the chain on. You can see that it's quite a solid piece. Thermoplastic's really great because it's really hard to break. It's really solid. It dries to a really strong and stable state once you've done this. It's a beautiful medium to work with. Anyone that knows about cosplay will know that a lot of cosplayers use it and create some beautiful pieces. It's something that really gets your imagination going because you can pretty much do anything with thermoplastic. It's a beautiful medium. So today I'm going to be starting off by showing you how to create a base on which to mould your thermoplastic around to start with. I'll be doing this video over the next couple of days because my thermoplastic hasn't yet arrived. So I'm going to show you this, and obviously once this video gets edited down you'll be able to see the whole thing. But first off, I'm just going to take you on a little tour around my house to show you all the possibilities of things that you can create with thermoplastic. So there are lots of different ways that you can use thermoplastic to get a really nice result. Here I've used thermoplastic on an outfit, so you can see here that I've just sewn these wings on. If I pull this back here, you can see that it's got two hoops that I've sewn onto the fabric with, and you can see how that has attached itself on, and then I've added the other wing, and when this outfit is on, it sits straight like so the wings don't touch the way they do when I'm not wearing it. And you can see all that detail that you can get in there. And then this one here is a necklace, so you can see here that I've added a few rhinestones, and the wings on this one are much smaller in size, and this is a flat base on which I've worked, so I've not curved this one at all. This is just a flat base. Here is a necklace I made for Halloween. So again, this is what I'm going to be showing you today, how to build things off a flat base and make them look more 3D. So as you can see here, I've added little marks to make it look like fur, and I've added rhinestones to give a sparkly effect. This one here is a tiara I made. So this one is a bit more advanced, and I'll be showing you how to make these on the next video. So you can see that I've added glitter to this. You can see that this is a curved shape, but you can see that overall the effect works really well. This one's another tiara that I've made here. So this one's a bit bigger, it's a bit more advanced again. It's got a lot more detail to it. I think this was the first tiara I ever made. So you can see that there's a lot of detail to that, and it's a bigger full head tiara. So another thing you can make is things to go on the wall. I didn't make this decal in the middle, but I made the wings that go either side. So you can see they're a fair bit bigger than the other things I've made, and they just attach onto the wall with a couple of little hooks, and you can see the back's completely unfinished because it doesn't have to be, and you can see the nails in the wall, and it just hooks on like that. So you can see that there's a lot of different things you can do with thermoplastic. Another example here is a necklace that I've been making for myself. So you can see here, this actually has glitter in. In the third video on thermoplastic, I'll be showing you how to put glitter in things without it coming off all over you. So that's something that you can think about, whether you want it to be glittery, whether you want it to be matte, whether you want it to be metallic like the centre of this. But I'll be showing you today how to make flat items like this, and I'll be showing you in the next video how to make more advanced things like this. This is another piece that I'm part way through. You can see that it's not been painted, it's not been quite finished yet. you can see that there's different layers to this. I'm going to be showing you how to do that in just a minute. And you can see that I've made little scratches in the thermoplastic to create texture. All these are things that you can do to create a really beautiful piece. So now that you've seen what can be made with thermoplastic and all the possibilities of what can be done with this beautiful medium, you can see that I've made quite a lot of items with it already. I buy mine from a specific place in the UK called Budley Crafts or Cuddly Buddy Crafts. I will link that down below in the description. I go via Instagram onto their website and I purchase the thermoplastic from there. It comes in many different sizes that I'll be showing you in just a minute, and the largest piece you can buy from their site is about £17. I'll be going through a couple of different types of thermoplastic with you today, but I'll only be using the Worbla Pearly Art thermoplastic today. So in the next video I'll be showing you how to use the different types of thermoplastic that I've purchased, but I'm just waiting for it to arrive. So when working with thermoplastic, all you really need to remember is that if you don't create a base for your piece, you will end up with what is essentially a piece of thermoplastic that when reheated may not retain its shape. So that's the first thing you need to know about thermoplastic. So what I like to do is create a base out of paper foam for my pieces, because the paper foam allows the thermoplastic to retain its shape whilst it's cooling, and it just adds a little bit more structure to the piece that you're working on. So the first thing to do is to create a design. So I've got this little design here. It's almost like a sacred heart kind of design with an eye in the middle. This is going to be quite easy for me to create because the layers are quite obvious, as you'll see in a minute. So I just start with an image like this, and what I'm going to do is each separate layer of foam I'm going to use a different colour today, so you can obviously pinpoint which each layer is, and it will give you a better idea of what I'm working towards. So what I'm going to do now is just show you the foam. So this is the paper foam. It's just craft foam. It's quite thin. You might have used this when you were a kid. You might have used this for other craft projects. It's really good stuff, especially for this. It's really great to build up your creation before you do anything. It doesn't really matter what colour's available to you, because it's going to be encased in the thermoplastic and painted anyway. So it really doesn't matter what colour you choose to use for this. As I say, I'm going to be using different colours today to show you how to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by cutting around my image. Now you can see here that I've drawn all these little loops around the edge. I'm going to be freehanding them today, so I'm going to cut them off the image. So as you can see here, I've cut around the entire outline of my image. Now I just drew this freehand. You can pretty much draw whatever you want. And just consider when you're drawing these at which layer everything's going to be. So I want this eyelid to protrude the most and these front curves here to come forward. So they will be the top part of my image. You'll be able to see how I do that in just a minute. Also, another thing to note when you're drawing your template is that your thermoplastic piece will be slightly bigger, because you're going to be drawing around this in foam, and then you're going to be encasing it in a layer of thermoplastic. So essentially it will become bigger. So what I'm going to do now is place my template onto my foam and just draw around it with a biro. As you can see there, I've just drawn around this. It looks a little bit like a strawberry in this red. I've just drawn around the entire outline of my image, and I'm just going to cut that out now. This will be the base of my piece of foam that I'll be building onto the top of. So here I've just cut out my image outline, and now I'm going to choose what I want to sit slightly higher than this. So for me, the next stage is that I'm going to cut this top piece off, because I want this to be the furthest back, so I want that to remain in the red. And I'm going to cut around this outline here around the heart, so this heart in the centre is slightly higher. So you can see there I've just removed a little bit more, another layer from this image, and this will be the next highest layer up. So all these pieces will be sit higher than the red background. So what I'm going to do is get a different coloured piece of foam to show you how this is going to look. And I'm now going to draw around the outline of this piece. So as you can see again, I've just drawn around the outline, and now I'm going to cut it out. And as you can see there, now I've cut out the next piece. Now what I'm going to do is line that up with the first piece and glue it on. So first I'm just going to check that it's right by lining it up, so I can see there that that's going to sit really nicely onto my original piece, like so. And I'm just going to now glue that down. So if you're not sure what glue to use for this, my favourite recommendation is this one. This is the original Hi-Tack all-purpose very sticky glue. This you can buy from many retailers, including Hobbycraft. It's got a high-tack quality, which means that it bonds really well. It's my favourite glue to use, so I'm going to be using this today. Anyone that watched my pillbox hat tutorial already knows this is the glue that I use the most. So I'm just going to now glue that piece down. So you can see there that I've just put a small layer of glue on that. It's not too thick, and I'm just going to place it on top of this red piece, lining up all the little pieces, and that is now glued down. So just be aware when you're gluing foam to foam, it does like to slide until the glue bonds properly. So you are going to have to wait for the layers to dry, or be super careful when you're doing this, because it doesn't like to stay very well. It likes to move around until the glue has fully bonded. Now all I really want for the next layer is the eye and these front pieces here, so I'm going to now be doing those in a different colour. So I'm going to cut these out as separate entities. So you can see that's my first curve that I've cut out on its own. I've cut out that eye in its entirety, and I've cut out the other curve. So you can see that my image, I've just been cutting directly off it to get the right sizes for the pieces that I need. So for this I'm going to be using a purple foam, so you can see what these look like when they're the next layer added on. You don't have to use different coloured foam. I'm only doing this so you can see the layers more clearly. You can use all the same colour. I quite often just use white, but it really doesn't matter what colour your foam is. Obviously, if it's black, you might have to get a white gel pen or something similar to be able to draw your pieces out. So you can see here that I've just drawn around those pieces, and I'm going to cut them out now. So you can see now that I have these three much smaller elements to my piece. Now I can just get rid of these pieces here. I'm not going to add to them anymore, so I can just throw those away now. And I'm going to now line these up and stick these to my main piece here. So as you can see there, I've just added that next upper layer to my piece. Now to finish this off, I'm going to just add a fourth layer, and that is going to be the eyelid of my eye, just to make that come forward a little bit more. And all I want is this curved shape here. And I'm going to get my foam again, so this time I'm going to be using yellow, so you can differentiate between the layers. And there you can see that I've just drawn out the eyelid. I'm going to cut that out now. So now I can discard all my pieces of drawing that I did. If you are concerned that you're not going to remember how the original thing that you wanted is going to look, you can do a sketch and then draw your template from which to cut down in stages. But for me, I just made that one today. When I do something more advanced like a tiara, I like to have a design and a template separately so I can remember what I did. But that's really down to personal preference. And as you can see there, I've got my highest piece, which I'm now going to glue on to the rest of my image. And you can see here my 4 different layers that you'll be able to see through the thermoplastic. So if I just grab my example again, you can see that this one only has 2 layers. So it has all this heart, and the outside of this ribbon here is 1 layer, and then I just put 1 piece here as the second layer to make it more 3D. So you can see there that that piece sticks out more than the rest. So you can do 2 layers, you can stick with 1 layer if you prefer. It just adds a bit of dimension to your piece. So this one has 4 layers. Just be aware, the more layers you put on, the more difficult it can be to mould the thermoplastic around. It may split in areas, but I'll be showing you how to resolve that and how to hide that with paint if that does happen. So this is the base on which I'm going to work. I'm going to leave this to dry now, and in a couple of days I'll be showing you how to encase this in thermoplastic and talking about different types of thermoplastic. So I'll see you later. And welcome back. So my shipment of thermoplastic has just arrived, and I'm just going to take you through the different types of thermoplastic that I've got today. So we're going to start with this one. This is one full piece, so I actually can't get it all in the frame, but this is approximately, for those who deal with international paper sizes, this is approximately an A2 sized piece. This piece is the biggest that you can buy from the website Cuddly Buddy Crafts. As I say, I'll be linking that down below. It's an absolutely brilliant website to buy thermoplastic and other crafts from. It always comes well packaged. It's a really brilliant small business to support. So this is really, really big, this piece, so I'm going to pop this to one side because I've got some left over from the last large piece that I bought. So I have a smaller piece here that I'm going to work off today. Now, obviously, you've just seen a few of the things that I created with thermoplastic, and all of those pieces were created with this particular thermoplastic called the Worbla Pearly Art thermoplastic. So as you can see here, this has a shiny side and a matte side. So I like to use the shiny side to stick to my pieces so the matte side shows in my work. This one's just my personal preference. It's quite thick, it's quite durable. All those pieces that I showed you earlier in this video were made for myself. I've also made a lot of gifts for friends and family. I've only ever bought 2 of the large A2 sized pieces, or approximately A2 sized pieces of thermoplastic, and I still have this much left over. So you really can do a lot with a large piece. They come in different sizes as well, as I'll be showing you in a moment. So this is the only thermoplastic we're going to be dealing with today. I will be showing you how to use the other types in the next video. But I'm just going to show you what the other types look like for now. Cuddly Buddy Crafts offer a wide range of different types of thermoplastic. So this one, as you can see, is a beautiful clear thermoplastic. This is great to make windows with, to create things that you're going to be able to see through, to layer up to create that window effect. It's a really nice piece, and this is a different size again. This is approximately maybe a little larger than A4. So if I get an A4 piece of foam, you can see here, this is my A4 piece of foam. So the thermoplastic is a fair bit bigger. You do get a generous size with these. On the website itself, they will always give you measurements in centimeters and inches, so you can work that out with a ruler or a tape measure, how much you want. I always buy it in bulk because I like to have a lot in stock, but I've bought these pieces in smaller sizes because I'm probably not going to use as much of this as I will the Worbla Pearly Art. So this is the clear version of the thermoplastic. And here's another type of thermoplastic that you can buy from Cuddly Buddy Crafts. This is approximately A5 in size, again probably a little bit bigger. If you want the full measurements, you can visit their website. I'm in no way affiliated with Cuddly Buddy Crafts, I just purchase from them, but I think they're really, really good. They're a really fair price, and their stuff always comes in really well packaged and safe to your door in a few days, especially if you live in the UK, because they're based in the UK. So this one is a thinner type of thermoplastic that I've personally not tried yet, so I will be trying that in another video. This is used by a lot of cosplayers as well because it's a thinner type of thermoplastic. It's actually a little bit more textured than the Pearly Art stuff on one side. So I think this is easier to mould with. It's possibly for more delicate areas. So if I just pick my piece up here, so say you were to do something a bit more intricate than this, you might want to be using this type of thermoplastic here. Next, I have some thermoplastic beads that I've purchased from Cuddly Buddy Crafts along with the rest. These are clear beads, so this is going to dry clear as a clear piece of plastic. I personally just purchased the clear beads to see how opaque they actually were. So next I'm going to show you my thermoplastic making kit. This isn't 100% necessary. I like to keep all my thermoplastic in one place, and you'll see why when I open it up. So this was £5 from Hobbycraft. It's just a glittery craft box. So if I open this up, you can see here that it's got several layers to it, and inside this there are loads of pieces of leftover thermoplastic from other projects that you can heat together to create new things. I'm not going to be dealing with that today, but always keep your leftover thermoplastic because it is really useful. There is absolutely loads in here. So if you're running out of thermoplastic, you can still use the little pieces that you cut off other things. I also have a set of metal tools here. So these all have different ends on, as you can see. And I use these to mark and mould the thermoplastic with. Again, these are from Hobbycraft. You can probably buy similar from other craft sites. I think these were actually clay or model moulding tools, but they're really good for thermoplastic as well. A heat gun. Heat guns are super essential to thermoplastic. Because you want to be able to heat your plastic in order to be able to mould it. As you can see from these pieces here, they are super solid. They're not all that flexible. When it cools, it is really, really solid. It is a really solid medium, which makes it great to use for projects that you want to be really solid but lightweight. So you do need a heat gun to be able to do this. As you can see, mine is the Hobbycraft heat tool. This was £15 from Hobbycraft. I find it perfect. It has a little stand, so you can just stand it on your table, which makes it easier to use and makes it easier to cool. Always remember when you're using heat tools to make sure that you're doing it safely, and make sure that you leave it to cool in a place where it's not going to be too close to anything else. Now, on the back of the heat tool, it has a little fan area with little slats. These are to let the tool cool as you're using it, so it is important that you don't cover this area when you're holding on to it. The nozzle, as it says on the nozzle itself, caution, nozzle may be hot, if you can't read that. This is important that you don't touch this area either, because it will be quite warm. This doesn't heat up to a ridiculous degree, but you still do need to be careful, so I just want to point that out. Next in here I have a heatproof mat. So I've got a heatproof mat in here. Obviously these are really important things to be able to have. Mine's a bit scratched up, but it still does work. It protects the surface you're working on, it protects from fire, it just protects everything that you're doing and on your work surface. You can pretty much get these from everywhere. I got this from Hobbycraft as well. It is important to have one of these available to you when you're working with heat. Another thing I have in here is a pair of scissors. Cutting thermoplastic is quite easy to do. I like a small pair of scissors because you can cut more intricate areas out. So a pair of scissors is always a good thing to have in your thermoplastic toolkit. Sandpaper. So I've got different grains of sandpaper in my toolkit as well. It's not always necessary to sand your creations down, but sometimes you will find that there's just those couple of rough areas that you can't resolve by heating it up again, or you don't want to heat it in case part of it loses its shape again, so you can just sand it down. Be aware that sometimes the fibres don't want to sand very easily, or they can leave a bit of a rough edge on your work. I'd start with a stronger grain and work my way down to a finer grain. But really, sandpaper isn't, in my opinion, too essential to this. I also have in here templates that I've kept from past projects. So you can see here, these templates are for finger cones, which I'm going to throw up on the screen now. So these finger cones are created for a makeup look, and what I did was mould the thermoplastic around these pieces of foam and then pull the foam out. I don't always do that because I tend to like to leave the foam in because it creates a more solid structure for your piece, but with nail cones, because I want them to be thin and delicate, I needed to take the foam out, so I moulded the thermoplastic around them to a degree, pulled these pieces, these templates out, and then carried on creating. You can also use thermoplastic on its own. So as you can see, if I throw this close up of the butterfly on the nail cone again. So this butterfly was created purely by moulding thin bits of thermoplastic on their own with no foam to create those little wings. It just makes it a bit more moldable, it makes it a bit more organic shaped, whereas the foam will give you structure. If you want a more organic, delicate shape, you will have to use the thermoplastic by itself, which I will be showing you for the waterline of the eye today. Really, even though it's not essential, a couple of other things I have in here is a set of earring backs and necklaces. So I've got a couple of chains if I want to put a chain on a necklace for jewellery making. I've got a set of earring wires here. These are all good things to keep all together if you're going to be making jewellery from thermoplastic. I also have a little keychain in here if I wanted to make a keychain. It's just little things that you can put all together in one place, just so you've got everything from start to finish to be able to create. I don't personally keep my paints in here, but you could if you wanted to. And you can see that inside here is a lot of other foam and pieces of thermoplastic that I've just kept spare in case I need a small amount to be able to do anything with. Now that I've got my toolkit set up, I can take out the things I need. So I'm going to be using this tool today with the flat edge and the pointy edge. So I only use the one tool today. And I'm going to put everything else back away. And now I can set up my area with my heatproof mat. So you can see here that it's a decent size to work with. Doesn't really matter which way you put this mat. Obviously you can see that it's got folds in where I've folded it into my box. I could leave it under a book overnight and that would flatten out, but I don't really see the point. But do be aware when you buy a heatproof mat, it might only be one side that is heatproof, so you need to just double check that. And I've got my tool here and my scissors here, and I've got my piece of thermoplastic here. And I've got my heat gun now plugged in here. So I've got everything I really need. Here's my design. So I've got everything I really need to now start off with. So what I'm going to do is show you how to encase this piece of foam in thermoplastic. Now on some pieces it isn't always necessary, as I'll show you now. As you can see on this piece, it isn't always necessary to completely cover the back. So you can see here that I've not bothered covering the back, and that is because, as you saw earlier, this piece goes against a wall, so I don't really need to cover the back. So this is just foam here. You can obviously see the backs of the feathers as well, where there's a bit of foam inside because I've encased each feather in foam, which I'll be showing you in the next video. And you can see there that it looks great from the front, but not so great from the back. So you don't need to cover the back. I'm going to show you how to do it. It is kind of essential for things like earrings because you can see them from a surrounding point of view. But for things that are going to be flat against the wall like this, you don't need to. Another thing that is non-essential to have the back covered is a necklace. However, if you're going to do that, just remember that necklaces, if you're going to give them as a gift, are going to look unfinished if you don't cover the back. So just consider what purpose you're making your thermoplastic piece for and whether it's really essential to cover the back or not. If it's not essential, it's probably a waste of thermoplastic to cover the back. But if it is essential, then you need to follow the next steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my piece and get it to the corner of my thermoplastic and just cut out as accurately as I can around this piece of this foam shape. Now, when you're cutting this out, you can make this smaller than the piece itself because it will be mostly covered. You can see here that I've completely missed that area out, and I'm just going to trim that down a little bit more. And then I'm just going to go around the edge and make it slightly smaller than my template. This is because you're going to fold the front around to the back. You just need a flat piece on the back to make sure that the back is covered. So you can see there, this essentially sits completely flat to the back. You can see a couple of bits that doesn't really matter, and you can see here that there's areas that it doesn't quite meet to. That's not an issue. So what I'm going to do now is heat this up. So again, with the Worbla Pearly Art, you can see that there's a matte side and there's a shiny side. The shiny side is the better side to stick directly to your piece. So you need to think about that when you're cutting it out as well. Because for instance, if I was to cut it this way, it might not be quite the right shape. You can see here it's not quite the right shape, it's hanging off here. Whereas this way round, it sits much better. So you need to think about, you want the shiny side to be facing in to the back of your piece. So what I'm going to do now is just heat that up. Now I apologise if you can hear the heat gun a little bit in this. I'm going to try and edit it out as much as possible, but obviously it can't be helped because the heat gun does make a noise. So what I'm going to do to make sure that this piece of thermoplastic doesn't blow away while I'm heating it is I'm just going to get my metal tool, not my finger, and gently hold that in place with the metal tool. Now you want to be gentle with this because when you heat it up, this is going to make a mark here. As you can see at the minute, nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to be any kind of mark made on there. But when you heat it up, the plastic becomes soft and this will mark it a little bit. So you need to be gentle when you're holding that in place. And I'm just going to go ahead and heat that up now. There is no right and wrong time to how long you heat things up. I suggest that you do it for little by little and see how you go. You'll be able to find that point yourself, at the point at which it heats yourself. But don't do it for too long. Just do it long enough that you can see the plastic will start to flatten when you do this. So I'm going to try and get it as close to the camera as possible. And what you will see happen with the thermoplastic, it won't be that hot to touch, is that it will start to become bendy and soft. That's the point at which you want to stick your piece down. So I'm just going to get my piece and press it onto there. Now it might not want to stay, it's fine really, so long as it sticks to some degree onto the back of your piece, you'll be absolutely fine. It's just to make sure that your piece is now covered at the back. So you can see there that I've now got this nice back covering that's just going to make it look a little bit more finished. You can see that it's stuck on there. If I hold it by this point, you can see it's stuck on there now. And I've just pressed it down with my fingers. It does cool quite fast, so you should be all right using your fingers. If you're not comfortable, you could wear heat-proof gloves, or you could find an alternative way to doing this, but I like to use my hands because it really isn't too hot to the point where it will burn me, but you do need to remember to be safe with this. So now that I have my back piece in place, I'm now going to go ahead and cut out the front. Now the difference between cutting out the front and the back is that you want at least an edge around your piece at the front. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out now. So you can see there that I've left quite a big gap around this. You should really do it face down like this, so you can see that I've left quite a big gap around this. And all these pieces are going to fold in onto here. Now just to make this a little bit easier to bend into these places here, I'm going to make a few cuts inward. Now don't cut too far in when you're doing this because you'll find that you don't have enough thermoplastic and you end up having to patch things in, which is quite difficult to do. So you can see here I'm just making a few cuts relatively far away from the places where the actual points are. I'm just going to make those just to make it so I've got less thermoplastic to contend with when I get into these areas. And I'm just making sure to cut away bits that are going to cause obstacles. So you can see that I'm just cutting in, but I'm not cutting all the way to where the gap actually is. I'm just sort of making gaps around the top there. And you just do this to make sure that you can fold it in a little bit more easily. So this is going to look something like this. It looks like this from the front. You can still see my piece through there. Like I say, if you can see it through there once it's attached, don't worry because you're going to most likely paint it anyway. If you are concerned and you want to keep it white, I would use a white foam. But all you're going to do from there is place your whole piece down with the top facing you, and you're just going to gently hold that in place with your tool, your metal tool. And you're just going to heat it up and you will gradually see the thermoplastic start to sink onto this design. And what I like to do is heat up a section at a time. This just makes it a little bit easier to contend with. So just heat it up a section at a time and see how you go. So you can see here I'm heating this area up. And you can see that I'm moving the heat tool in this kind of motion around this area here. So what you can do now that this thermoplastic has started to get warm is you can gently press it around areas that have heated to start pushing it in. Now just be careful when you're doing this that it's not too hot. I like to just gently press it with my finger to start that moulding process off. So you can start seeing all those different levels that you created with the foam like this. So you can see that these levels you can now start to see. Now to crisp those levels out, what you're going to do is get your metal tool and gently, very gently, just press around those areas and press in. Now this is going to leave marks, but you can get rid of some of those marks by heating it up again if you mark in the wrong place. But obviously I can see quite clearly through mine where these are, especially now that it's started to mould itself to that. So you can see there that I've just made those levels a little bit more obvious and a little bit more defined. So I'm going to carry on heating this up now and pressing it onto this area to make sure that I can see every level and go from there. And again, I'm just pressing in with my finger once it's not too hot but still malleable, and making sure that all those different levels are visible. And I'm going to go in with my metal tool again. Now you do want to be careful when you're doing this, because if you press it too hard and the layer is too high, it can split. So you do need to be gentle. And now I can start to create a little bit of definition around areas and make them look the way I want them to look. So as you can see here, I'm starting to mould this around here, but I want this little inner part of the eye to be more visible, so I can get my little pointy end and just make that shape. So this is separate from the rest of the eye now, as you can see here, and that's just by pressing into the thermoplastic. You can see an air bubble there, so you can just press that out with your finger. It will cool quite fast, but it is mouldable still. I can make another little mark in that inner corner of the eye to suggest the texture of that inner corner of the eye, like so. And you can keep doing little things like that just to create the shape that you're looking for. So whilst I was showing you this has already started to cool to quite a high degree, so I am going to need to go back in again, because as you can see there where I've tried to press in with my metal tool, it hasn't made as much of an indentation as I've liked it to. Now you can go along a line straight like that with a little bit of pressure, or you can press in gradually. I kind of like to do both, and you can see there that I've now got to the outer edge of my piece, so I'm going to leave that because it's going to get folded around. So you can see that I'm just moulding it. I'm just making sure those levels are really defined. Now for it to fully cool, it does take a while, so I like to leave mine the minimum of 1 hour to let them completely cool before I paint these. Sometimes I leave them overnight if it's a large piece that's taken a lot of heat. So what I'm doing now to make this eyelid look even more separate from this eyepiece here, I'm just gently pressing under the eyelid piece itself, just to make it look like there's a gap there, which there would be with a real eye. So I'm just making sure that that looks really realistic there and true to the design. So you can see there that that bit looks deeper than everything else now. Another safety thing to comment on is never let your heat tool touch your work, because this will make it too hot and it can be dangerous. So just make sure that you're not actually letting your heat tool physically touch your piece of work. Now as you can see here, if you look up closely, I have already made a little hole. That's because this area is quite high up. So the more you build your areas up, the more likely you are to come across these little issues. You could heat up a tiny piece of thermoplastic and patch it into that area. I'm not going to bother because mine's going to be painted and you're not going to be able to see that. But if it does bother you, you can heat up a small amount of thermoplastic and patch it in and spread it out with your tool, which I'll be showing you how to do on the back of this piece. So as it starts to cool, you have the option now of being able to go back over these areas and scrape any excess plastic out of those areas just to make it really straight and neat. You could heat it up again if the piece isn't quite in the right place. like this point right at the end here, I want it to look a bit more defined. So I'm just going to heat that back up and get my pointed end of my tool and just press in just to create that point of the heart and make sure that it's really there and really obvious, as you can see there. So what I'm going to do now is encase it all the way round by flipping it over and start bringing it around the back. So I can see here already that I've got an excess of plastic here that is much more than the other side that I don't really need, so I'm going to trim that down to make it easier for myself and make it look more even at the back. So you can see there that now looks a little bit more even. Again, this bit is probably not needed, so I'm going to just trim that away. And what you're going to do with this now is you're going to heat up around the area on the outside and fold it in with your tool, as I'll just show you now. So I've seen my thermoplastic start to flop down. That's the perfect point at which to fold it. So I'm just going to get my tool and gently start folding it over, get my finger to make sure it's really against there, and just keep pressing it over like so with your tool. And as you can see, that area is now flat to there. Just check once, every time you do this, that the other side's still looking okay, because this is the side that really matters. And I can just press in areas where it looks a little bit lumpy at the side, just to make sure that it is really polished there. Because as I say, this is the area that really matters. So you can see that that side's now fully encased in thermoplastic, and I'm just going to carry on round. So I can see that my thermoplastic again has flopped down at the side, and I'm just going to get my tool and press that in. Just running my finger along the edge to make sure that the edge is perfect. And just checking the front. Now, any points that you have, you can just gently pinch them to make them appear more pointed. You can press any pieces back that don't look quite right. You can press it down with your finger to make it look flatter, or just little tricks that you'll learn how to do as you use it, just to make them look a little bit better. So you can see there now, because you can see the red through the white, that this point is lower than the original point. I'm going to leave it like that because once you paint it you won't be able to tell that that is lower, but just be aware that the outer thermoplastic is going to make your piece generally bigger than it was before, and it can change the shape of it. So you need to be aware of that. If you didn't want this point, you could heat it up again and fold it back in on itself again. So you can see there that I've just folded that round now. I'm not going to clean it up just yet. I'm going to finish folding it all the way round and then clean it up in one go. So now I'm getting to the tricky bit with all these little points, so I'm going to have to be a bit more light-handed with it. And I can see here that I've got another issue, which is that this piece here is not going to encase all of this here. So I've left this excess piece here, which I'm going to use to patch over the top, because you can see that this bit here is really too close to this to be able to encase it fully. But I'm going to start at the other side and just work my way in. So you can see that I'm just folding this in and over. You can see now that I've overestimated by quite a lot of thermoplastic for these points. And I'm just going to go back into the front here and start moulding that shape to make sure that it's moulded in here. So you can see that I'm just pressing that area in and just making sure that it's secure and that it's the shape I want it to be. So I'm just pressing into that corner just to make sure that it is the right shape, that it is retaining the shape that I originally wanted. Now I can see that I've used quite a lot of thermoplastic here, so what I'm going to do to make sure it's fully encased is start folding it over the top. So you can see that I've just folded that piece straight over the top of this now, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult to mould, so you're just going to have to be careful and patient when you do this. I'm going to have to heat mine up again because it's already started to cool. So I've heated this time from the front, and what I'm gently going to do is just press that in and just pinch that edge to start making that edge the clean shape that I wanted it before, and start folding around the next spike. So this does take a bit of practice. I already have a piece missing out of mine. I'm going to show you how to patch that. with pieces like this, with little points and things, you are going to find it more difficult to mould around, so you do need to take a bit of patience. You can see there that this piece has already ripped there. I'm going to show you how to patch that back in once I've finished covering the back. So with the points, you do need to be able to pinch them and curve them to make them the right shape. This can take some time. I also know that I struggled with that first point to bend it round the whole point itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to take any away, but I'm just going to add another cut into that area there just to make it easier to mould with. And I'm going to heat that up again now. And then I'm just going to press that round and in, so you can see that I've got far too much hanging off there. You can see it from the front, so I'm just going to chop that off with my scissors, and then I'm just going to pinch this into the right shape again with my finger. You can see that it's starting to come away at the back there, so again I can just chop that little bit off like so and press it down, and then I can just mould the little shape with my finger and my tool to make sure that it is retaining the shape I want it to retain. And you can see there that that one's now fully encased. Obviously you can see at the back where there's still a little bit of red showing. Again, I could patch that bit if I wanted to make the back look perfect, or I could spread it downward, which I'll show you once I've finished encasing the piece in the thermoplastic itself. So you can see there that I've now got the other piece on, and I'm just going to now do this last area here where it's not folded over. So you can see there that now my shape is completely covered. It's not 100% perfect. That doesn't really matter at this stage. What I'm going to do before I do start to perfect the front is finish the back. So you can see here that you've got all these little folds. Now, unless you sand this down at the back, you are still going to be able to see some of these folds. I'm not going to bother sanding mine today because I'm not too worried about the back or what it's going to look like. I just wanted it to be covered to show you how to do it. But if you do want to do it properly, I'll show you how to start this process off in order to bond this down a little more, but you still will be able to see it like this. So you can see on this one here still where the thermoplastic was folded round. It's much less severe than that, but you can still see it. Because this is a necklace, it doesn't really matter, so I've not bothered to perfect it or sand it. So just consider what you're doing before you make all this effort to make this really flat, but I'm going to show you how to make a start. For anybody that's enjoying these tutorials, I have already made part 1 and part 2 of a pillbox hat making tutorial. So that takes you through how to make a pillbox hat from start to finish, including suggestions on decorations. Mine was a bit crazy. It looked a bit like it was for Professor Umbridge from Harry Potter. But if you're enjoying crafting along with me, please, you're more than welcome to go and watch that. It's up on YouTube. Also, I will be doing... This is the first part to a 3-part tutorial on thermoplastic. So today, obviously, we've just been dealing with the flat pieces and how to make them look built up. For anyone that's interested in the artistic term, anything that's flat and looks built up but essentially has a flat back is called relief. So this is a relief piece of thermoplastic art. But I will be showing you how to do more 3D pieces that are more sculptural. And in the next video, I'm going to be making a tiara. And in the video after that, I'm going to be showing you the paints I like to use to be able to paint these, how to apply glitter to something without it falling everywhere all the time, and how to seal it in with glue. I'll be showing you how to consider where you're going to place rhinestones, In the second video, I'll be showing you how to create feathers. Feathers is a really popular one and they look ever so beautiful in thermoplastic. So I'll be showing you how to do that on the tiara. And there's a much more in this video. This is like your beginning stage. You can make some beautiful things in relief alone, but in the next stage you'll be able to really let your imagination go wild and create some amazing 3D things. So what I'm going to do now with this is I'm going to heat an area up where it's folded over now, and what I'm going to do is slowly start dragging the thermoplastic inwards to start bonding it to the other piece. Like I say, if you want this to look really seamless, you are going to have to sand it. I'm personally not going to bother because I find it really time consuming and it's not always necessary. I sometimes do, depending on what the project is. So you can see that I'm just turning it and dragging it with my tool just to make it look more bonded to the piece next to it. If anyone has any alternative ways of covering the back, let me know. But this is just a good way. So you can see there that this is much flatter now than it was before. You can see compared to these bits around here that it's much flatter and you just have sort of an outline around the edge. Like I say, you can potentially get rid of that by sanding it, but I'm not going to bother doing that. Another noteworthy thing about thermoplastic is that when you heat the back, it will heat the front a little bit and you will start to lose some definition in these lines here. This is why I like to do the basics on the front first and then move round to the back, finish the back off, and then I can put all the detail I want in the front and leave it completely cool. So I'm going to carry on round with this now. So you can see here that I'm just pulling it in. So you can see that I'm just pulling it in like this with my tool to flatten it and applying the needed amount of pressure to spread the plastic across. And then I'm just checking to see that this side is still perfect here by just pressing it back onto the side of the foam, making sure that it looks decent. You need to also make sure that it's not starting to curve forward and make sure that your piece is still flat. It will want to curve forward because obviously this is my highest piece in the centre here, so it will want to start curving around that a little like so. You can see that it's curved, but you can just press that back into place without too much trouble while it's still warm. Now I'm getting towards the top. I need to be careful obviously because some of the areas at the top are more delicate areas, more intricate areas. So I'm just again spreading that plastic across and then making sure that it still looks decent on the front because that's your main concern. By doing this you can cover up a couple of little tiny gaps that come your way. So you can see there's a couple of little tiny gaps here that I'm just going to cover up by spreading the plastic gently. So you can see there that they're now gone, that those gaps have disappeared because I've just gently spread the plastic with my tool. So you can see here now that this has started to completely flatten off. And as it cools, I'm just going to keep going into that area because as it cools, it starts to flatten a little bit more. You will find yourself what temperature you particularly like to work at. I like sort of in the middle, so when it starts to cool too much, I find it too difficult to work with and I heat it up again. But you will find the temperature sweet spot, if you like, that's right for you, that you prefer to mould at. And that will be the one that you will kind of aim for. Another way to really completely cover the back would be to create two of these and stick them back to back with glue. This would allow you to have a surround sound image. So if you wanted it to be, if you were going to hang this on a mobile that was going to move around like so, you'd be able to stick them back to back so you wouldn't be able to see this area at all. I'm just going to finish up the back now that you know what you're doing. And as you can see there now, it's not perfect, but for me that's going to be fine because you're not going to be able to see the back of my piece. I'm just pressing any little air bubbles away that have come up in there as a result of moving the plastic around. This is fine for me because, as I say, I'm not going to be showing the back of my piece, so it doesn't really matter. You can see here that there's still a couple of bits showing here, so I'm just going to show you real quick how to patch in a small area if you want it to not be visible anymore. This area here, you can see that it's split down the middle because of how thick this bit is. So what I'm going to do is just patch this area in. So what I'm going to do is find a off-cut piece of plastic. I'm going to measure approximately how wide that is. Now, the smaller you cut this, the more true to size you cut this for the piece that you're using, the better really, because it will patch in and look more natural. So what I'm going to do is just cut a small piece off at approximately the right size. So this is really tiny, this piece, and now I can check it against there again. Now, you want to do this from the front because it matters more what the front looks like than the back. You see when I sit it in there that it is going to patch it quite nicely. So what I'm going to do is heat that little piece up. Now, do you remember that if you just use the heat gun on these little pieces, they will fly away. So you do need to gently hold them with your tool and just heat it up. And once that's nice and hot, you need to move quite quickly to be able to put it in the right place. So I'm just going to ease it in there with my tool and my hand. And just ease it into that area that you're working on. So you can see here that it's poking out here. You can see here that it's not quite covered the back. So what I'm going to do is just start pushing that on to the right area in order to make it patched up. And you can see from the front here that it's giving me a little bit of a line, so I want to resolve that by just pressing it in and folding round to start hiding that line, spreading out to start hiding that area to make it look less textured. I'm scraping it away with my tool and I'm just pressing in just to make sure it's right. Now I've got a bit of excess at the top here, so I can just gently cut that away, and you're left with something like this to start with. Now what you want to do is heat the entire area and just mould it around that area a bit better by using the scraping motion with your little tool. Probably the flat end is best for this, and by moulding it around with your fingers and the tool by scraping it. So once that's heated up, you can start just manipulating that patch of plastic that you've attached there and start scraping it to make it bond to the rest and make it look less obvious. If you're worried about what it looks like from the back, you can keep doing it onto the back. I'm only concerned with what it looks like from the front, so I'm only going to be dealing with the front side. So you can see now that that piece is nicely patched away. You can't see that gap anymore. It's just got a nice patch there. If you look up close, you may be able to still see a couple of marks, but it's not really obvious. I can just mould it to how I feel it looks best. Patching plastic, the best advice I can offer you when patching plastic pieces in is to just be careful and just cut it to the exact right size, just to make it easier to sit in there. You've got less plastic to spread away. I'm going to show you on this little bit here as well how to do it again. It might be a little bit easier to see. So you're just going to again get a small piece of plastic and cut it off to the right size. So I'm measuring mine on here, and I know that I only need a tiny triangle of plastic this time. So this is really, really tiny. It's a really tiny little piece. And what I'm going to do again is heat that up. It's nice and heated. I'm going to go ahead and place it on the area that needs patching up. So you can see there that I've just placed it onto this area. And then I'm just going to mould it with my tool a little bit to start that process off. So you can see there, you can still see the outline of it here. And so what I'm going to do now is heat the entire area again. And you can see there now that it's completely blended in. So just by using a really small area of plastic, you can blend it in. Obviously you need to be aware that it's not always going to sit perfectly, but just be careful when you're doing this. If it does split, you can fix it, so don't panic. So now that I've got all my back on, as you can see here, there's an air bubble that's now cooled and you can still see it. So if I wanted to resolve that, I could heat it up again and press those in. As I say, I'm not too concerned about the back of my piece, so I'm not going to bother, but you can do that. And I'm going to focus again on the front. So even though you might not really be able to tell, some of these lines have become a little less defined where I've heated it from the back. I can see a little point here that bothers me. So I'm just going to go back and do all these details and heat this area up here and press it back in. So I've heated that area up and I'm just going to press it flat again like so it doesn't point out the way it did before. Really easy way to resolve that. You can see that it's quite flat, and I'm just going to now go in and finish doing some of this detail. Another good thing to do when you've heated the entire thing up again is just press it gently flat. This will make sure that it does sit nice and flat to whatever you're doing. It is going to be a flat rather than a curve. If you want it curved, I will be showing you how to curve things in the next video. And I'm just gently going around all these lines to make sure that they're nice and crisp. If you're just beginning out with thermoplastic, which is really more what this video is aimed at, and you want to create something in relief, maybe just do 2 or 3 layers, don't do too many, and start from there. Do simple shapes that you'll be able to follow, and then you can build up to doing more extravagant pieces, and then 3D pieces that I'll be showing in the next video. So you can see there that I've completely finished pressing all my little pieces in, and you can see that that looks now really cohesive, and obviously you can still see the coloured foam through it, and because I use different colours to show you different levels, you can see that. Once it's painted, all you'll be able to see is the different levels, and it will make it more cohesive. So now you have this piece all ready to go. What I'm going to show you is how to use the thermoplastic to add other elements onto your piece without the use of foam. So this is going to cover these little loops that I make for chains to go through for necklaces. It's going to cover how to be able to attach them to walls. Depending on the angle you put these at will depend on what purpose they're for. As you can see that these ones are straight upward, whereas these ones are at an angle. So I've made these at an angle to hang this onto a wall, so they come forward slightly off the piece in order to be able to hang that onto the wall. So what I've done to hang this onto the wall is I've measured the width between the gap here and the gap here, and I've calculated the angle at which I want it to sit, so it sits like this against the wall as you saw earlier. And then I've knocked in 2 nails at approximately the right width apart, and then you can just hang it straight onto the wall and it sits at this kind of angle on the wall. So not only can you make loops with this like this, you can also add other elements onto your piece to create a bit more detail. So I'm going to show you how to do that by creating the waterline of the eye here. So what you want is to get your offcuts of your pieces of thermoplastic, and you want to cut a relatively thin piece. So I'm just going to measure against my eye how much I need here. So as you can see here, I need approximately this much to be able to do this. So I'm going to cut that off to the right width to start with. Now I know that this piece is too wide to be able to do this, so I'm going to cut it into a strip like so, and then I can measure it back against my piece again to make sure it's the right size, which it is approximately the right size for this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold that with my metal tool again and heat it up. Now to do this, you want to make sure that you get plenty of heat into that little piece. So once it's cooled enough for you to pick up, you're going to pick it up and you're going to just start folding it around onto itself to make sort of like a little rounded cylinder kind of shape by rolling it between your fingers like so. So you can now see that it's more of a cylindrical shape, like if you were to roll clay between your fingers, it would make a similar shape. And what I'm going to do now that I've got the shape that I want is place it back onto my piece to check that it's the right size. And I can see now that it is slightly too long, so what I'm going to do is just trim that down a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is heat the original base piece and the little piece that I've just created. So I've heated both of those pieces up. I'm going to curve this round to the shape of the eye and place it on there and just slowly press that on to the right, in the right position. Now you can see I've got that pressed on there, and what I'm going to do is heat it up again. Now that I've heated that up once more, I can gently start pressing it with my metal tool to make it the right shape and make it bond on to the areas. So I'm bonding it on to this corner here first. You can see that that started to come flat again because I want it to poke out more in the centre. And I can start pressing it to the inner corner of that eye. And you can see that I'm pressing it in there to make it look further away than it actually is. And I'm just gently moulding that to the right kind of area that I want it to be. And as you can see there, that's just added another element onto my piece. You can see in the middle here that it started to bubble away. I can just press that away with my finger as it starts to cool. Sometimes the thermoplastic does bubble up. It's dependent on how often you heat it up and how much movability it has on the piece. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's just something that you get used to. And you can see there that now I've created this waterline shape around the edge of my eye. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how to make the little loops, and I'm just going to do a few around the edge. I'm going to use them for decorative purposes today because the purpose of this is to sew this to a dress. So my purpose is to sew it to this dress that once I've completed it will look like that. So the more loops I have, the more areas that I can stitch it. Now really when you do this you want to consider where those little loops are going to be. So for me they're going to be around the outside, so A, they look decorative, and B, I've got several places I can stitch this onto the outfit. As I say, these ones are on the top, the ones on the wings were on the back. So really it's dependent on where you want them to be. I could have done one in the centre here, but I was concerned that it would detract from this piece here where the heart goes inwards. So I did one either side. So I'm going to get some pieces of thermoplastic again, and I'm going to approximately do 5 either side. So I'm going to cut 10 pieces of equal plastic out. Now if you do cut these too thin and roll it too much, the plastic will split, so you need to be aware of that when you're doing this, to cut them out a little thicker than you think you need them. As you can see from this waterline one, it looks really nice and thin now, but I started out with a relatively thick piece of plastic. So I'm cutting mine out to all a similar width. It doesn't matter that some of them are curved and some of them aren't at this stage in the game, because you're going to heat it and roll it anyway. So I'm just approximating the size. They're not all exactly the same. This is another great reason to keep all your offcuts, because then you've got plenty of pieces to work with. So I've got all these 10 cut out here now, as you can see. So I've just done a few of the loops now to show you what they're going to look like by the time they're finished. So you can see here that I miscalculated and there's an extra 1, so there's 6 on this side. I've just cut out another 2 pieces to go on the other side, and I'm going to show you how to create these loops and add them onto your piece. So you can see here it's starting to look quite decorative. This is going to give me several places where I can sew this onto my outfit and displace the weight so it holds it on a bit more securely. Obviously for this one, which is a necklace, you can see that it's only got 2 because it only needs 2, but I've made mine something decorative as well as having a useful purpose. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carry on with adding these round and show you how to do it. So as you did with the waterline of the eye, what you're going to do is get your little piece of plastic. I'm going to put the others to one side or they're going to blow everywhere. Get your small piece of plastic like this and just hold it with your metal tool and heat it up. Make sure the heat really saturates through there, like so. And then I'm just going to roll that again like I did with the waterline of the eye. Make it a nice long shape like so. Sometimes you have to keep rolling them a bit to get rid of any lines that you might see. And then what I'm going to do is start to curve it in an arc shape and pull the edges outward like this. So you get this little arc shape with little feet like this. These are the areas that are going to be attached to the other piece of work. So you can see here it's going to sit like this on the edge of my work. And what I'm going to do is heat that little loop up and heat the side of my flat piece up and stick them together. So they're heated up now. What I'm going to do is get my loopy piece and just get those feet on there and press them down. So you can see I've just pressed them on. You can use your tool for this if you don't want to use your hands. And then I'm going to use my tool just to press that on a bit more securely, like so. And then I'm going to use my tool to manipulate that loop like this, just to make sure it's the right width. And then I'm going to heat the whole thing up again, this whole area up again. And then I'm going to start pressing those feet in so you can't see them anymore. Now be careful when you're pressing this and rolling these little bits of plastic, because if they get too thin they can snap or come apart. So you do need to be careful when you're doing this. And you can see here now that I've just pressed that in with my little end of my tool, and I'm just moving that and manipulating that until it becomes bonded to the larger piece. And then I can just go in and flatten it out by scraping across like this, flatten out that mark that it's now left me with. And you can see there I now have a loop the other side. So I'm going to continue round now and just finish this off. Another thing to be aware of when you're doing this is that when you heat the area up with the next loop on, it is going to affect the loop next to it. So you just need to make sure that you're straightening the loop next to it back up and making sure that that's still perfect as well as you go along. And there you have it. Now all my loops are on. You can see here that I've made it quite decorative with these little loops around the outside. It's added another dimension to my piece, and they also act as a way to sew the thermoplastic pieces onto things. They act as a way to add chains or anything really that you want, depending on what you want to do with it, to hang it. So the last thing I'm going to show you before I go is how to mark your thermoplastic to make texture. Now I'm only going to be showing you a little bit on this one because I don't want too much texture on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the iris of the eye in this area here. And really, it's really simple. All you need to do is heat up the area and scratch in the area with your metal tool. So I've heated that area up now, not too much, just enough so I can mark the piece. And I'm just going to use the end of my tool to mark it, like so. So really all I've done is just make a little line with the tool around. You can use this to make scratch marks. You can use it to make any kind of texture you want. You can use it to suggest fur or feathers, as you can see. On this one you can see there's lots of little grooves and marks that I've made with the tool to create the texture of the feather. Really, it's up to you what kind of thing you want to do with it. It's a really simple way of just adding a little bit extra. So I'm going to now let this cool for the next 24 hours or so to make sure it's completely cool before I paint it. You can leave it, I would say, the minimum of maybe an hour to 2 hours to let it completely cool down and solidify. Some of these hoops have completely solidified, so on this side they're completely solid now. When I'm banging them against things, they're not moving, they've not changed their shape. So this stuff is really strong. I hope you've enjoyed following along with this tutorial. In the next one, I will be making a tiara. I'll be showing you how to do more 3D advanced things with thermoplastic. I'll also be showing you how to mould thermoplastic around other objects and mould it into silicone moulds. So you can follow along with that if you want. And then in the third part tutorial, I'll be showing you how to decorate everything that I've made and just give you a couple of ideas on decoration and what kind of paints are best to use. So if you don't want to follow along with the next tutorial, you can wait till all three come out and skip ahead to the third one. I'll be painting this and decorating this one first. If you've got your own ideas on decoration, you don't need to watch any further. It's really up to you. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I work really hard on them. I know sometimes they can be quite intensive and long, but for every hour you see on screen is another 3 hours planning and editing these videos for you. So I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye guys.